Alright fam, well it's time to engage. Moods are front and center, enter the stage. Mind, body and spirit to try synergy. Ask not like Kennedy, feel the energy. Jump as you live, try to give all positive vibes. Ignite your cognitive senses. The consensus, moods are stupendous, tremendous, and kicks like Juventus. Always on point, sharp like a knife, cutting through the bull, tame the strife of life. With no type of hype, don't like take a hike or roll the dice, grab the mic, connect like Skype. No need to save face, it's a safe space conducive to mental fitness, wellness inclusive. Chasing nirvana, elusive. Instead, shed the abusive pattern, real like the rings of Saturn. Full circle, Mutai's in purple, royalty regal. She's killing you with kindness, it's almost illegal. So my people, life is up and down like a seesaw. Calito, fly away high like an eagle. Watch the leaves grow. Once my flow is flawless, then it's finito.
This is The Shift, so welcome to The Shift, everybody. Basically, if you're just tuned in for the first time, this is a show where I actually get to, share some positivity with people from different aspects of life, different dynamics. We come in and share different life experiences, and then from those experiences, we move into the shift. So basically, the shift is positive energy. It's basically moving from trauma to healing. So this is a platform where we do a lot of healing, a lot of talking. We share a lot of experience. From that experience, we learn, and then we inspire each other. So our main objectives of the show are to inspire, empower, and heal from trauma to healing. That's our mantra. So I bring in different guests every weekend. So today I have my guest who is an author. I'll let her introduce herself once she comes onto the show. But she is a guest, and she's an amazing woman who I've personally known over the years myself, but I didn't know much about her writing aspect. So it's going to be an interesting show for me to actually get to know more of the author and how she thinks. So I would also just like to urge, the reason why we did the 10 p.m. show today is because actually some of the conversations we're having today are adult conversations, a bit of sensitive issues in there based on the things that she writes about in her book. So that's why we've actually moved the show to be like a 10 p.m. show. But hopefully all of it is more just to inspire, because I always say in order for us to know where we're going, we need to know where we're coming from. So I'll just get my guest in on the show, and then we'll move in straight because I've been waiting. So, hello, there's my beautiful guest. How are you?
Hi, Musa. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I was just doing a little bit of intro about who you are, where you're coming from. Well, not where you're coming from, but I've just given it out a secret that I've known you for so many years now.
Yes.
But I don't know your author aspect. So like everybody else, I'm getting to know that side today. So I'm really excited to know about that. I've seen that there are two more guests. Are they joining us on the show? Or they just in the audience?
Which two guests, Musa?
I can see Melody and there's Tinashe somewhere. Are they entourage? They've just messaged me. They've messaged me, but it's fine.
They're the listeners.
Okay.
They're the audience.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so you can listen into the show on Diplomatic Radio. So yeah, we're live. So today, on today's show, right? I always say thank you so much again for coming onto the show. Thank you so much for joining the Shift family. And because you're now part of the Shift family, we always want to get to know each other. So although I know a bit about you, to be fair, so it's a bit kind of like different, but obviously the listeners don't know you. So it will only be fair if you are going to introduce yourself, and then we'll take it from there, please. So a bit of background.
Yes, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for the invitation on your lovely show. I'm a fan. I always listen to your positive show, and your topics. They are beautiful. They bring out a lot that affects people in positive way, which is really important. So thank you very much, Musa.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
My name is Yvonne
Yeah.
Gwenyambira.
Yeah.
It's a very long surname, very long.
Yeah.
I always spell it phonetically whenever I speak to people.
Yeah.
And I'm a mom of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my children has got learning disabilities. It will come, the reason why I am introducing myself like that, it will make sense later why I mentioned that, because
All right.
I wrote one book on autism
All right.
and my experiences with my son. So it's one of my books.
Wow.
So yes, so just like what you've just said, Musa, we've known each other for a long time, isn't it? Since high school.
Definitely.
Yes, and let me be honest, Musa, the only thing that's changed is that you're a woman, but you're now a woman. But when I used to know you, you're still the same, Musa.
Thank you. Good to have somebody that knows me from the past, because I think a lot of people always think, oh, you know, she started this now. But thank you so much for testifying. So I didn't think you were going to say it on the show, but it's fine. Thank you so much for testifying that, actually, because it's good to have somebody that's known you. Like, you've known me since I was a young girl. And
Yes.
grew up knowing me. So this is not a surprise to you. I've always been like that.
Yes, you've always been like that. So so I grew up in Harare,
Yeah.
in Budiriro.
Okay.
That's where I spent most of my childhood, but I used to live in Highfields, where my grandfather has got a house.
Yeah.
But we moved to Budiriro when we got our own place to stay.
Okay.
And I come from a family of 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the firstborn.
Yeah.
And I've got a sister who follows me. She's called Melody.
Yeah.
Most people in Zimbabwe might know her because she was a journalist in Zimbabwe.
Right.
And
Okay.
my younger brother is called Tinashe, and
Right.
he's a graphic designer. So
Okay.
some people might know him too.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, and I came from a nuclear family of a mom and a father.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents have got a background of being in the war, like liberation war heroes. So that's why I managed to write the book, with getting inspiration from them.
Wow.
Yes. So writing started for me when I was quite young, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
sorry, Yvonne. Before you go any further, I just want just a few more questions about your background, right? You know, you've spoken about, you know, you grew up in Harare with your mom and your dad. Both of them are from the liberation struggle. Before we move into the author side, before we move into your writing, I just wanted to know a bit more about what was it like growing up with people that are war veterans, people that actually, like, I know I'm going to ask more questions about the war, indeed, you explain it in your book. But what was it like to grow up with people that fought the war, you know, that are patriots? You know, was it strict? Was it normal? Did they used to talk about the war? What was it like?
It was a normal upbringing, Muta. A very normal upbringing. The only time that they would speak about the war, and it was mostly my mom, to be honest, it wouldn't be anything that is graphic at all. It was just, if let's say, I would say, oh, Mom, I'm really hungry, you know. And she would just say, you've just finished dinner. And I was like, oh well, I wish I could have something more, something like that. I'll be full, but being a teenager, you know, you just want to push it. And then she'll go like, okay, do you want me to tell you a story about the war, how it used to be like in the war?
Wow.
You know, just to, yeah.
You know, it was more inspirational than traumatic, because I know the reason why I asked that is obviously, you know, as part of the show, we move from trauma to healing. And one of the reasons why I've asked this question is the fact that I know a lot of people that are maybe in the army or have been in the army or been part of the war. Whenever you try and speak to them, they always come up with some sort of trauma, that it wasn't easy. But you're actually bringing in a different dynamic. It was an inspiration.
Yes, because my mom, she was positive. She was a positive person. So even if something was traumatic, she would turn it into something that is positive. So I think maybe she was also mindful of the fact of my age or my siblings' age. So we did not get to really hear much of the graphic scenery, but we would know what took place in the war. Yeah,
Right.
almost like according to our age.
Right.
So she would make sure that she would tell us stories, the difficulties that they would experience, what the young girls used to go through. So this became almost like ngano, almost like, what can I call it? Like, our folk tales that we talk about yeah, that's how it became like to me. It wasn't
Like
something that I'll go like, yeah. I wouldn't say, oh, she's going to talk about the war, which is so scary. No, it wasn't from that perspective. It was more from a perspective to educate me that this is what she went through. This is what her other colleagues went through. And these were the outcomes. So it's not a positive experience, but she would make sure that the lessons that come out of it were more of like positive. Like, what would I learn from there? Most of the time, I knew that my mom had high resilience. So that's what I would take from there. She had high resilience. She was a strong woman. She was a woman who would just, get through many things without moaning, without complaining. So those were the positive aspect that came out of it. But did the war cause trauma on her part? Yes. But like what you're saying, trauma to healing. With my mom, that's how it went. Like, she went through those steps in her life to make sure that it would not affect her life. So if you spoke to my mom, she's no more now, but those days, people who used to know her, they would have to guess that she was in the war. She would not come out to go like, oh, I was in the war, we fought like this. If you watch Only Fools and Horses, Uncle Albert, he was like, oh, during the wartime. Not with my mom. You'd have to second guess. She would not talk about it. Yeah.
Wow. And that's very powerful, how you've made from trauma to healing, because this is what we stand for. This is basically what this show is all about. Trauma to healing. I would love to meet your mom. I'd love to meet her, because I'd love to understand how she got to that healing phase. However, back to you. We'll discuss what this war is, because there are some people that probably are trying to figure out that which war is this, what's happening. So we'll go into detail about that aspect in when we talk about your book. So what about your dad? Was
Yes.
the same as well?
Yes. I'll correct you first. My mom passed away, unfortunately, years ago. Yeah, when she was young when she passed away. Well, in the 40s, yeah. Anyway, yes, my father, he was in the war, and he did fight the war. And just like what I told you, that it wasn't stories that they would want to impart, like the graphic part, whatever. So the person who used to talk more about it was my mom. Yeah, wow. Because she wanted to put it on like almost like a teaching side of it. Yeah.
Wow. So I guess for you, this is where the inspiration came in for you. This is the shift came in when you were young. Now, fast forward, life has happened. You've grown up with your parents, high school, everything. When you were young, did you start writing when you?
Yes, Musa. Just to also add, I used to read stories like Zvinoda Kushinga. Those were stories based on the war. So it's not only hearing stories from my mom. Most of the stories, like the graphic sides of it, I would get it like from reading the novels, like, oh, okay, so this is the part that my mom is living out. So this is what would happen. You understand? So most of it is something that I just used to read by myself. But that was when I was around 13, 14. And now back to what you said about when I started reading and writing, sorry. I started writing Musa when I was 7. I used to write short stories. My mom and my father used to bring novels from work. like when I was 5, 6. But then my mom used to bring a lot of them when I was around 7. I would read one book in a day. I'll just finish it. So I always used to have a creative mind. If you tell me you want to a topic on anything random, and you say, oh, Yvonne, can you write something about it? I'll just write about it without planning or without thinking. It was just a talent that my mom discovered when I was young. Then growing up, I won't say the surnames because obviously some people might not want their names to be mentioned, but I know she doesn't mind. Nancy, she is one of the people who inspired me when I was in secondary school, Musa. I used to write stories in our counter books in the hostels.
Yeah.
And she would say, I love that story. When are you going to write a continuation? She was one person who used to say, you've got to keep writing.
Wow.
We used to have, I don't know, which house were you in? I was in Fry House.
The hostel.
No, for the school, for the main school.
I don't remember.
There was Curie, Fry House. I don't remember.
Oh, I was in Curie.
In Curie. Yeah. That's why Curie came to my mind, because I was thinking.
Oh, yeah, because you know when you're talking about the houses, I thought you were talking about the hostels.
No. Yeah, no.
Just a bit of
hostel.
Yeah, just a bit of background for people that have just tuned in so that they catch up. I actually know Yvonne like from way back. For those that have just tuned in, and we went to high school together. I don't know the author side of Yvonne. I might know a little bit of it, but I don't know the details. So I'm just finding out a bit about that today. But with regards to certain aspects of Yvonne, she knows certain aspects about me. So that's why she's referring to the hostels, because we went to the same high school, Queen Elizabeth High School.
Yes.
And we're in the same hostel. And
yes, well done.
And she was my guardian angel. She's to me growing up. Yeah.
Yes, the reason why I mentioned the houses, because in Fry House, I remember a teacher, she asked me, she said, Yvonne, we need a main actor, actress, we're only girls' school anyway.
Yeah.
And she said, we need a main actress. And I said, okay, and I'll act in it. I was only in Form 1, Musa, and I got a Best Actor award and all that kind of stuff. And after that, I was told by one of the teachers, she said, would you like to write one drama for the school? And I said, well, for the house. And I said, yes. Then I wrote a drama. So all these things I'm talking about, these are the people who were behind me, always showing me indirectly or directly that you can do it, you can keep writing. Yeah. Then I started doing public speaking. And it was beautiful. It was lovely. Then I remember, because I grew up in Budiriro, okay? Some people might refer it as like the ghetto or whichever, but we used to call it the Baghdad Buddhas,
Right.
And people in my area, they knew me. They knew me because I'm just a people's person.
Yeah.
And in our area, we always used to get along anyway. So my aunt used to work for the ZBC. She was in the filming and all that kind of stuff. Then she said, Yvonne, I need a drama which should be featured for just one day.
Yeah.
I was still 14, 15, because she knew that I loved writing. Then she said, when do you think you'll be able to gather the crew, the cast, people who act? And I said, now. She said, Yvonne, I'm 2 hours away. I said, come now. We'll be fine. I called up my people, my friends. Listen, guys, we can do it. And I just wrote down a few lines, all that kind of stuff. And I said, we've got a drama. Wow. You guys will be fine. And it was shown on ZBC for a day. And people in my area were so happy. They were like, oh, we're on TV. We were talking about 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds on TV, blah, 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 blah. And the reason why I mentioned also my aunt is because up to now, whenever she hears that I've released a book or something, she's always the person who texts to say, you've always had it in you, all the time. So these people, they all know that they're the ones who are also shifting to say, you can do it, Yvonne. You can continue writing. So you can see, Musa, that from when I was young, writing was always something that was part of me.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, because there's a shift element in there, you know, which I also want to touch on parents, because as you know, we now have the young people showing that you were
Excuse me,
talking.
Musa.
Okay, you've mentioned that we have you know, you have kids and everything, and now we've launched our young people show. It's very crucial. It's very important that you identify your children's passions or interests from a very young age, because look at you now. You know what I mean? Look
Yeah.
at me now. It's because of how I've always been, and that I was embraced, you know, and you've been embraced, and this is where you are. So there's something so beautiful about the fact that your people around you, people that were around you growing up, and in you writing this book, knew what kind of talents you had, and they pushed
Yes.
and they embraced you, hence you are where you are. So, you know, there's a shift in that. So that's powerful.
Yes.
Okay. So you started writing from a very young age, you know, you've even been showed on ZBC. ZBC is like BBC channel. It's the national channel in Zimbabwe, and it's basically like how BBC is here in Zimbabwe. It's called ZBC. So she wrote, how old was precisely?
My aunt would correct me if I'm wrong. I think I was around 14, 15.
14, 15. She wrote a drama that was featured on national broadcast station, and everybody watched. At 14, 15 years old, your talent was already shown. That's powerful. So fast forward, at that point on, did you then continue to write? So 14, 15, you've written something, you've seen, okay, I have it in me, you know, I can actually write something and it can actually be taken to national TV. Did it then motivate you? Were you then even more hungry or more motivated to push this?
Well, I wouldn't say I was more hungry, because just like what you said, when there are other responsibilities that come up in life, so becoming a mom, so that becomes the number one priority. And then the writing of the book, of the writing of the books, or whatever I write, it becomes something that I've got to create time for, which is now what it is. Yeah. So it's more now almost like a hobby than what it was when I was young. Because when I was young, it was more like a flame that needed to be taken out. But now I have to think about other things that that are more like I would deem as more of like a high priority. But it did not stop me from writing, Mota. So, for example, I've got a drama that I wrote that at the moment it's in production. I wrote it, when was this? It's called Blind Ambitions. They've got a Facebook page. I wrote that drama a few years ago, but there were some few hitches in post-production. But I'm anticipating that by probably next year to come out. It's a comedy. So I actually accredit people like, I hope Rufaro, you don't mind, Rufaro Kaseka, I hope you don't mind, but I credit him because I write books. But I said, Rufaro, I also want to learn how to write script, because it's different. Writing a book and writing a script is different. I said, show me how to write a script. And he said, I can show you. And so he showed me the ropes. And I wrote that drama called Blind Ambition. So I hope it comes out, just to show you that I also dabble in other kind of writings. Right. Then after that, I wrote a book called Elusive Horizon. It's one book that needs to be almost like redone in a way, because I got some feedback from one of there's somebody who was really interested in saying they can actually take the book and publish it in their own publishing house, but I wasn't happy with the way I had structured the book at that time. So I said, listen, just leave that book. So what I've done, I've taken that book from the market. I said, let me leave it to become a future project. Why I left it, I felt that I could develop the characters more than how I done that at that time. Then after that, I gave birth to my son, who's got autism. I only discovered that he's got learning disability. At that time, I was suspecting that there was something obviously amiss. When you're a mom, you know. But my experience of being a mother of a child who's got learning disabilities and autism, because I mean, these are two diagnoses, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought to myself, if I'm in this position, how many mothers or fathers are also in this position? And guess what, Musa? There are loads of them who are in the position, but most of them don't know how to go about it.
Right.
And I would say I had four experiences just from counting from my fingers, where a mom would be saying, there's something wrong with my child. I don't know what's wrong with my child, blah, blah, blah. But at that point, I'll be thinking you're speaking to the right person. I'll be saying, you know what? I'm not a medical profession. I don't diagnose, but this is looking almost like your child has got a global delay. Would you like to probably go towards the medical side of it rather than the pre-side of it? Like, oh, there's something wrong. You know, some people are putting things in the way and all that kind of stuff. So the book just, it's not a journal or a medical research thing of what autism is about. No, there are probably some few quotes I credited NHS for just to write what autism is about. But the book is more of my experiences, so that if somebody had to read it or gets to read it, they can see, okay, fine, if she experienced this, how did she come out of it? How did she handle it? Because to be a mom, to be an ASD mom, you've got to be a person who's got more patience and who's very positive. I've got a friend of mine who said, you've won. I would put you in a queue of 1,000 people, put you at the back, just to buy a loaf of bread. You would wait there patiently and won't even moan or complain.
And that's what I was going to say. For me, knowing you, the fact that I've said I've known you, you've always embraced me like a big sister. It's just natural. Like, you just have this love and you're patient and you're soft. So it's something that's in you. So I'm not surprised, and I'm so proud of you. Just before I go into the details, you know, about this book, I'm so proud of you because it's not easy, you know, being in a foreign land, child with autism, because bearing in mind the way we grew up, our backgrounds, we're really exposed to disabilities. You know what I mean? Always, like, you know how we even talk about mental health. Next week I'm going to be talking about mental health. I've got a young lady that's coming on the show. We're going to be talking about mental health within the BAME community, especially, you know, and even just in any community, stigma around it. There was always some sort of stigma that has been associated with disabilities, you know what I mean? Because for whatever reason, people find it difficult to accept, you know, and that's the mindset we need to be able to shift to make people understand that, you know, when somebody has a disability, or if, you know, if somebody is different to everybody else, because a lot of people are suffering in silence, you know. There are a lot of parents that are probably from the big ethnicities that don't like to come out in public and, you know, and talk about their kids having disabilities. It's a sensitive issue, but it shouldn't be, because it's just normal. So I really appreciate you coming, you know, live right now. We're broadcasting live, and, you know, opening up to the world that this is the situation, because I didn't know at all. Do you know what I mean? I've never known, because you're so positive. And so I really appreciate you coming out and, you know, being open about your situation. And then now back to the book. Now we understand the inspiration behind it, and I know it's going to help a lot of people because of the stigma or the denial. It's not just stigma, there's also the denial, you know, when people have, it's like for us in life, we always, things that are not ordinary to us, we don't want to embrace them. You know, it's very difficult for us to embrace things that are not ordinary to us, things that may look as if they're not the norm, is always difficult. So I know this book, you know, will benefit a lot of people. So do you want to go into a bit more detail how people can access this book? What's the more details of what's in that book? I know you've mentioned that you've got a little bit of the NHS in it, but your own perception, a summary, intense summary of that autism book, and where can we find it as well?
Yes, so the autism book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, It's called Autism, Life on the Spectrum, A Mother's Perspective by Yvonne Gwenyambira. And it's a book that talks about, it's got some hilarious and comical moments.
Right.
So there's a part where I talk about when my son melts down in a shop. Normally when people have got, I've got to be very careful because autism is a very long spectrum, because autism affects people differently.
Yeah.
So most people with autism is almost about social interaction or lack of social interaction.
Right.
So my son, when I won't talk about his present situation, I'll just talk about the time of the book, because he's
whatever.
Yeah. So during the time that I wrote the book, when he went into shops, or we went into places where train stations, whatever, he couldn't cope because of the amount of people who are around him. So when a person with autism like melts down, it means they can't control themselves to bring themselves back from where they are. So for example, if we cry, we can calm down. But with them, it can be very difficult for them to calm down without much intervention, or sometimes just to let it happen, but in a safe environment. So I remember a man, he was staring, and then he wanted to have a go at me, say, oh, why is the son screaming? Why is he making noise? Blah, 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 blah. And, I just remember at that point, I just thought to myself, you know what, I'll calm down. Then I actually talked to him, the man. I said, listen, at the moment, the person I'm going to concentrate on is on my little boy. Yeah, you need to give us space. Then when I finish with him, I will educate you on why he's screaming like that. Can you believe it, Musa, that the man was patient enough to wait for me to calm my son down? And then he waited. He said, yeah, I want to know why is he crying? Then I said to him, do you think all disability is visible? Then he said, oh, I've read that quote. Then I said, now this is the quote. I don't have to talk to you about what my son is going through or what he has, but always know in your mind that disability can also come from impairment of the mind. It can come from impairment of the hand, whichever, but it's still a disability. And well, I think the man just walked away because maybe he's never had somebody telling him in a calm manner like that. So he just walked away. So the way I describe that scenery is quite hilarious, because I was almost like pretending to be my son to say, Mr. Man, you've got to give my mom the space to calm me down, because I'm the one who's important in this situation. My mom doesn't have to deal with you and me. Because that's the thing, Mota. When you've got a child who's got autism, you're now, if you're not a person who can okay, let me be careful again. Let me retract my sentence. When you are a mom or a father to a child who's got autism, you've got to balance your emotions, because it can be very difficult to walk around with a child who sometimes goes like click, 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 making those kind of strange noises. People look. But if you start looking, you start taking those people's negative feelings and then you put them on yourself. And then you become very aware of what's happening. And then you're no longer the person that you want to be. You can't enjoy life. You can't do this. With my children, we enjoy life. We do the things that we normally do. So the book is just explaining different experiences of what we've been through, what we go through, shopping, whatever, and he just brings it. And the food that he likes, the singers that he likes, it's just that. So that's why I said it's got some comical and hilarious moments in there.
Actually, I think for me that's actually powerful, because that's one of the things that we do again on the show, is to bring in that shared experience. And from that experience, because I always believe that shared experience has a massive impact. You telling your story, and I might be walking on that same journey, and understanding how you coped with it would make a difference to me. So I'm part of what we do here, from trauma to healing. We use the shared experiences, like how you've shared the things that you have gone through. Being a mom of a child that has autism or disabilities, And there could be first-time moms that are experiencing this for the first time, and they're not yet comfortable talking to people, or there would be people that want to identify whether their kids actually have disabilities or autism. They can go and read that. You know what I mean? They could go and read that book, and it will help them in a phenomenal way. So you said it's on Amazon, and it's just called Autism.
It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and other shops that carry the book. There was one feedback I got from Canada. I was thinking, oh, okay. It's called Autism, Life on the Spectrum, a Mother's Perspective. But
Okay.
if a person just put autism, Yvonne Gwenyambira, it comes up.
Please, I'm really urging everybody, if you ever, because like I'm saying, for some past, growing up back home, in the BAME ethnicity, having disabilities wasn't a common thing. It wasn't a common aspect that was accepted in society. It was often maybe, we have these spiritual forces happening, or it was very difficult for us to embrace. I remember even people with disabilities being called names or being bullied.
Benzi.
Yeah, because we're living in a society that didn't understand mental impairment. And now we're here, and even now, even in the European countries, well, it's never easy for any parent, because when you give birth, my perception is you always expect everything to be perfect.
Oh yeah.
You always expect that, I'm going to have a child, and then they're going to be the next prime minister, the next president, the ever after. And then when those challenges come in and set you back, it's often hard to accept and embrace. So for people that have children with disabilities, please, 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 I urge you, if you feel like you're not ready to talk to people, maybe it'll be good to read this book. Is it okay if they reach out to you as well, Yvonne? Will you
Of
be
course,
happy?
they can. And can I also add, Mutsa,
Yeah.
that people with autism are so highly intelligent, because we focus, as we are called the neurotypical people, we focus a lot on social interaction. So I focus on Mutsa, what she's talking about. They focus on your body language, how you're being like as a person, and they are good judges of character.
They're emotionally intelligent.
Yes, they're very intelligent. Most of them, they can operate. Most of them are computer programmers. I know doctors who've got autism. I know lots of people who are gamers, and they are very intelligent. Mostly mathematical. Mostly, my son can look at 20 objects, and he doesn't have to count. You just say 20. If it's 35, you just say 35, because it's mostly like a mechanical side of mind more than a social interaction.
Wow. Wow, that's powerful. So thank you so much for that. So those that want to contact Yvonne,
yes,
just before we end the show, you give us your contact details. I actually know one organization as well in Zim right now that are trying to raise that have just started or established a charity for children with disabilities. I'll probably link you in with them. I think you might be able to give valuable input, because it's big. Well, yeah. So I'll speak to you after the show, and I think this is something really good, and it's something really good because I think there's a lot of awareness going. That's what we want to see, and the more we speak up about this, the more we come in, the more we normalize it to say, look, it's normal. You know what I mean? The more we move from that trauma to healing, the more we can move on in life, the more we embrace these intelligent people, and the more we embrace them just like everybody else, the more we'll be able to understand. When you go in and you see a child screaming or a child being hyperactive, you'll be able to understand that, okay, this is what's happening. So it's very, 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 very powerful, and very crucial. So I know the main book I want to focus on is one of your biggest books, which is Bluebird, which has got the inspiration from when you started with mom and dad telling you the stories back in the day. So I want to take a quick break and come back, and then we focus on the Bluebird. Is that okay?
That's fine, Musa. Thank you.
All right then. Okay, so we will take a quick break, and then we'll be back after the break, and we'll continue. And Yvonne is going to tell us on the most fascinating book. I've read a little bit of it, so it's going to be quite interesting to get an insight because of what I got, what you're going to explain to us. So that will be really important. And I think as well, there's a lot of healing in that book. We need a lot of healing and a lot of understanding that comes from that book. So we'll just take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Alright fam, well it's time to engage. Moods are front and center, enter the stage.
Hey, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are here on Shifting Your Mindset. I'm sending you so much love, so much light, and so much positivity wherever you are. Mutsa.
Mind, body, and spirit to try synergy. Ask not like Kennedy, feel the energy. Jump.
We're back now. I have the best-selling author of the house, Yvonne Gwenyambira, who's very inspirational from being a mother of her son that has autism, having grown up with parents that were actually part of the Zimbabwean liberation struggle. We'll talk more about what defines that liberation struggle as we go by. So it's been, it's really, 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 really exciting to have you. And thank you so much for opening up about some of the challenges that you faced in life. So the book, it's selling like hotcakes right now, right?
Yes.
Right. So tell us a bit about this book.
Okay. The book, Bluebird in War. Do you want me to go into detail about it, or
just a summary? Because we need people to go and buy the book.
Okay. Of course.
Give us
yes.
The hints. What is the rationale behind the book, please?
Okay. Bluebird in War, to be honest, is almost like my overdue book. The book that I thought I've got to write this book. I've always told myself since I was young.
Yeah.
But it was just a matter of finding the time. And lockdown, the last lockdown anyway, was the opportunity that I found to write the book. So the book is almost like it tells the liberation struggle from the eyes of a girl, as opposed to the eyes of a man that we normally read, in our history in Africa or wherever. So the book follows a girl called Sarah, but it's actually got parallel. It's actually have parallel characters,
right?
Edward and Sarah. Mm-hmm. But I focus more on Sarah because she's the one who experiences oppression, whereby Edward has got privileges, but he's also got his own challenges that he gets in his life.
Right.
So Sarah is a teenager who is abandoned by her family in the villages.
During the war.
During the war.
Okay.
Yes, during the war.
Okay. Well, can I? Sorry to cut you off. Can I just go back and rewind what war this is? Because I know I've got people that are not from Zimbabwe listening in or tuned into the show. Understand which war it is because I could relate to it. What is this war we're talking about, and what is this liberation war you're referring to? Are you able to just give a bit of background information on that?
Okay, it's the book is set in the Rhodesian Bush War, but this one, the era is the 1970s. Right. So if you read the book, it's not a political platform for any political addresses. It's absolutely not for political or any social protest at all. It's just a book that follows a girl, but who is in the Rhodesian Bush War that took part between the Black nationalists and the white Rhodesians during the 1970s. So it just happened that I chose that era because it represents more the challenges that girls faced.
Okay.
Yes. So they had to make choices that were very difficult, but ironic choices to survive.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which I'll explain later what I mean by the
Yeah.
irony of it. Yes.
Okay, so the Rhodesian War, just to explain to a bit of background to people that are listening in that might not be aware. So Zimbabwe used to be called Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, which is our original native country where me and Yvonne come from. And prior to that, you know, during the time when we had colonization, we were actually British colony then, and at that time we were known as Rhodesia. So part of the Bush War was when we had the soldiers or the patriots fighting to get our liberation, so that we get we get our freedom from being colonized under Rhodesia. Is that right? Is that the era you're talking about?
That's, you know, I'm talking about the 1970s, because
Yeah.
as we know that there's been Chimurenga 1, Chimurenga 2.
Yeah.
There's one that goes back to Mbiani Handa. There's one that is the more like current at that time, which is the 1970s, because there was also a time when it was fought in the 1960s. But this one is the 1970s, where it was going towards the independence.
Right. Okay. So that's brilliant. So that's fine. Everybody knows where we are, what we're talking about. Okay. So this girl, what was so special about this girl? Why did you single out to talk about the girl and not the guy? What was it about the girl?
Because the girl, although she's called Sarah, she represents lots of Sarahs. There were lots of Sarahs during that time. There were lots of girls who were teenagers who joined the war, but they didn't have their perspective or their story told in most books that were written. So I just thought to myself, let me write this book, because most stories that you hear about girls who went to war, what they went through, and because, for example, Mutsa, you know, when we are 14, when we used to be 14, we never used to think about we need to get guns or run away from bullets, did we? No, we never used to think about that. We was thinking, oh, when am I going to get my next makeup or whatever, you understand?
100.
But at that time, she had to, Sarah in Bluebird in War, in this book, she had to go to war in order for her to be safe. Because when the parents left her, because there's a background information of why the father could not accept her as his daughter, and he chose to leave her in the villages when the war was hot. Yeah.
Right.
So we're talking about, you've got the Rhodesian soldiers who are passing through the villages. Then you've got the Black nationalists who are the freedom fighters who are also passing through the villages. So she had to come to a choice to say, you know what, I'll end up being called a traitor, because 1 minute I'm talking to the soldiers because they're asking me information, and then I'm talking to the freedom fighters. I might as well go to war. Yes, so that's the choice that she had to make at the age of 14.
Wow.
So the reason why I singled it out is that many girls, or many who they're now women, they had to make that choice at that time in their lives. Yes.
So this is true events. Back during the liberation, during the Rhodesian Bushman War, young girls were being taken actually to go into war that time.
You know, the choices that are still unfortunately present in our lives anyway, where it's either the girl child who stays at home and the boy child goes to school. Yeah. So most of them during that time, they were told you can't go to school because maybe your brother or your uncle or whoever, he's got to go to school. Yeah. And they've got to stay at home. So most of them, they were promised to say, if you go to war, you'll be able to get education. Yeah. You'll be able to you'll be taught some skills. Or with others, they had no choice. It's either they stay in the villages and die of hunger, or they go to war where there was prospect of promises of getting food and getting protection, whichever one, because we're talking about living in the villages during that time. There's no electricity, obviously, wild animals, Rhodesian soldiers, the freedom fighters. So for young girls, it was a scary decision that they had to make. And also, at that age, it's not something that you can't make any decision of life and death at that age, can you?
No.
So when somebody says this is what you will get when you go to war, or if you see, most of them, they used to see their peers going to war, they'll say, oh, you know what, I'm also going to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow. And we underestimate, because for starters, you know, I when I read the book, I got to find out what you spoke about, but over the years, I never really realized, you know what I mean? I've spoken about war veterans. I mean, I've met war veterans. I've known war veterans throughout my life, but I've never understood the dynamics behind the trauma of some of the things that they faced. You know, some of the things, because as we're talking about Sarah, you can imagine at 14 years old learning how to hold a gun and literally fend for yourself, and seeing people dying all around you. You know, it's almost like one of those things where you just think to yourself that I can't imagine it. I can't imagine I can't imagine a 14-year-old girl or a 14-year-old boy in a war right now. And from your perception, because I mean, there's a lot of things that you go into detail about the things that happened during the war. And I feel like for me, the shift, one of the things that fascinated me about your book is, you know, the younger generation, our generation, we're the in-between generation. And then we have the younger generation who are our kids that were born in the diaspora that would probably have no clue that we were once a colony and then there was the liberation struggle. They would not understand, and that's part of who we are. But then again, as well, if you think of the social dynamics of how things are in society, think to yourself, do these people not think, you know, do these people not understand, you know, these people, when you see how some of the elderly generation reacts, and we're so mad at them to say why they're so selfish, because we don't understand, not justifying that they've had trauma, but because we don't understand the trauma that they've gone through, or we don't understand where they're coming from, or we judge them as from the surface of what we see. But we've not actually had a conversation with the older generation to, right, this is what you went through. How do we heal from that? How do we move from the trauma that you went through as a young woman or as a young man to inspire? You know how your parents inspired you, despite the things that you say they moved from trauma to healing because they made that decision, right? And it's like with any person that goes through, that's why I try and push for trauma to healing, because we all have different things that traumatize us in life. And if sometimes we don't shake off that trauma, it will affect us. And we might be normal people, we might be successful, but if we have that trauma behind, or the things that the war veterans went through behind the scenes, and we don't understand, you know what I mean, and we see them acting in a certain way, it's difficult. We defend ourselves on a certain perception, but they also have their own demons that they're fighting. So your books bring out that room for conversations, for us to have open conversations, you know, with our elders, to say, right, you know, we get it, this is what you went through, but how do we move on from there? The fact that, you know, I mentioned just before the show, right, that we had this show at 10 p.m. because it's a bit more sensitive, in the sense that we have to talk about certain things, but people don't like to talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room of, we were once a colony. People went at war to defend our country. How now this is where we are when we talk about the elephant in the room. Your book now bringing inspiration to open up those conversations of how we can understand some of the traumas our elders went through, some of the things, that the demons that people are fighting or elders are fighting, and we might not be aware of them. And what was your, besides the fact of you wanted to bring to light what the girl child went through during this Rhodesian War, what was the end goal for you, despite the you know what, now that we know that this is what Sarah went through, then what was it for you?
Yes, so as I told you before, Musa, because I've got to be very careful with my book, because if I go into more discussion of where we used to be, I'll end up being almost like in the political side, which I don't want to end up on, because the book is absolutely not a political platform or a social platform. But with the book, it's more about the characters that I put in the book. Because, for example, if you read about Edward,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he was abandoned by his parents too.
Right.
And he did not like to be part of the war. And Edward is a European young
Wow.
man,
Right.
white Rhodesian who lived in Salisbury.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the funny part, if you like to put the word funny. With Edward, his company make a living from making bullets and all those kind of equipment that are used in the war. But he doesn't like the war. And the decision is taken away from him. You see later in the book, that decision is taken away from him, and he ends up in a situation that he didn't like to be.
Wow.
So he's also going through his own journey. So you see, that's why I said you see a parallel character, and these characters are going to meet. And
Right.
there, Musa, comes the part of healing that you're talking about.
Yes.
Because we're talking about a girl who's
Mm-hmm.
fighting against white Rhodesians.
Yeah.
And a gentleman who's fighting against the black nationalists.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, what is the theme? The hatred, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hatred. And, oh, we hate you.
Your
You know,
people
taking sides and all.
yeah.
Exactly, back and forth. But then they meet. That's, for me, it was one of the pivotal moments when they met. How, because Sarah she became to be known as Comrade Tambu. How did she perceive meeting this young European Edward? And how did Edward perceive meeting?
There's a lot of emotion.
Yes.
There's a lot of emotion there, because it's like confronting the demons, looking at the enemy, looking at the devil in the eye,
Mm-hmm.
and having conversation in your head, because the devil is a metaphor of things that, you know, the devil is the evil thing, and all your life you were trained as a young girl, you were robbed your life because you needed to fight the Rhodesian people. Finally you meet Edward, and Edward, all he knew as well growing up was fighting the black nationality. And then this is powerful for me, because I wanted you to say it for me, because this is where the shift comes in.
Mm-hmm.
We have all these things that are happening, you know, politically, socially.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the aspect of interracial relationships,
right?
Which is a completely different dynamic. For me, when I read the book, the things that were inspiring me were looking around the focus of, you know, interracial relationships. Because if I'm to again talk about the elephant in the room, I know people that would say, you know what, I'll never go out with a different ethnicity because it's just not going to work, because we faced a lot of trauma. You know what, I'm not going to date this, that. That's for me. That was the pivot. When when they met, for me it was like I made different conversations with myself about getting to the point where in society we embrace one another, because I cannot suffer for my father's sins, and it is up to us on the fate we decide. Right? Sarah had been taught to fight the Rhodesian people, to be the enemy, and Edward had been taught that. But then they meet eye to eye, and then they get to know the person is the person. Do you understand what for me? That's where the healing came in for me.
And
that was the healing for me, especially. Yeah, you were breaking up. I don't know what are your thoughts around that yourself?
Yes, the meeting of Sarah, called Kome Tambu, as she's later known, and Edward, I left it to be a subjective observation of the reader, for the reader to think, are they in a relationship or are they not in a relationship? So it's up to the reader to decide. That's how I left it, in that kind of subjectiveness. But you will see something, Mutsa, that it has to take the commander, Comrade Paradzai, to talk to Sarah, to say, listen, we are in the war to fight the cause, not to fight the people. Because she had her own prejudices, where she was thinking, okay, I would never,
Right.
because you're talking about a girl who's been in the village, she's never met a white person before. Yeah. And then all of a sudden she's meeting Edward. She has to get to
Right.
to know him. And I don't, because I don't want to really spoil the book for people who are going to read. But like what you're saying, that the meeting is so important, so pivotal, because it's also a healing for Sarah. It's also a chance for her to address her own personal issues or personal trauma. Because Bluebird in War is just not the war of the liberation struggle. It's also Bluebird. It's her. It's Sarah. She's the Bluebird, because a bluebird is it's a Native American bird which lives in the American forest, somewhere where there's geographical. I mean, people in America would know.
Tuned in live on Diplomatic Radio. I going back. I think we're on point now, because you're breaking up and you're describing what the Bluebird is. This is the author best-selling book, which is the Bluebird. She also has the other book, which is the Autism, a Mother's Perspective. And then there's another book that is called Village Champion. You didn't tell me much about that one. We could talk about it after the Bluebird. So we're talking about the dynamics of the Bluebird. I would urge people to read this book, especially with the fact that of where we're coming from. When we want to move to a point, we have all these dynamics going on in the world about race and all of these things. You know what I mean? And this book shifts us to get to a point of healing, because it talks of the different perceptions of where we all come from, but we have that conversation and meet in the middle ground. And this book is phenomenal because it does that. But I'm not going to go into the details. You are just going to describe actually why the title Bluebird.
Yes, I'll just say briefly that a bluebird is a bird that originates in America, and is quite beautiful. It's blue, is the name percepts, and it's a very kind and innocent, and most bird watchers or animal lovers always say it's the most beautiful bird on the earth. That's what they say anyway. So Sarah is the bluebird in this story, and she goes through the war. Is just not the Rhodesian war, it's just the war inside her own life.
Right.
What she goes through, because we're talking about internal war. Because if you're abandoned, you start questioning yourself, why am I going through this? Why is this happening to me? And to grow as an individual, it can be quite difficult. But then even within those kind of physical war and internal war, she still grows. So we find how her beautiful and innocent heart helps her to develop amidst all these kind of challenges that she's going through in life.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So, right. So, as you know, part of this show, so you've spoken about your books, you've spoken about your life experiences. Having seen somebody that was part of the war, seen them going from trauma to healing, yourself as well, going from you've been healing. You've spoken about your son and the dynamics around son, etc. And people that usually come on the show for me, people that I know have a different perception about life positive people because it's nothing but positive vibes on the show. I now want to move into the shift hour, where what is it you want to leave people with today? Despite the fact, obviously, your books are written from a place of positivity, a place of healing, a place of moving, turning a negative situation into a positive situation and embracing it and moving forward. What is it you want to tell the people today? So I'll quickly go in the background and the spotlight is on you now for you to shift us. So, I'll go in the background and I'll let you know what inspiration do you want to leave the people today from everything that we've spoken about. All that glitters is not gold. Life is a journey and you have to be a fighter. Conversations I usually have when you shifting your mindset are unfiltered conversations. People never know what I'm going to ask them. And my parents divorced when I was very young, so I don't really know what it's like to live with my dad, but me and him have a decent relationship. Yes, me and their dad didn't work out, and we are all good friends. We are all in a good place.
Okay, thank you, Musa. All I just want to say is I just want to encourage people, to be honest. In life is very challenging. We go through different traumas. We go through different, I don't like to use the word struggles, say different challenges in life, but it's about how you come out of it. So when you're in a situation, always look at the bigger picture. Never think that if a situation is there, it's always there to stay. Nope, it's not always there to stay. When you come out of the situation, you come out 2 times stronger than when you started the situation. And that is what is called resilience. So when you're resilient, if you go through another chapter in your life, which you deem as challenging again, if you go over it again and succeed, that's times 2 again of resilience, which is times 4. So most people, when they're going through challenges in lives, they always think that, oh, I'm getting weaker. No, you're actually probably 20 times stronger than where you used to be. So I just want to encourage people that the challenges that they face in life is actually building their resilience. You should keep on and keep on being positive. It's not easy to be positive. Even as a person, I'm not perfect. I'm not positive all the time. Sometimes I get stressed as any other person, but it's about how do I overcome it? Do I overcome it in a negative way, or do I overcome it in a positive way? That's what's meant by positivity. It's not always like, yeah, happy, chatty, chitty, or I'm happy all the time, smiling, roses, flowers. No. You'll find sometimes that I go like, oh, I need to speak to somebody for some advice. But it's about how do I get over it. And also to, like what Musa was talking about mothers who've got children, or mothers or fathers who've got children with autism. You can always email me. I'll leave my contact details, or I'll explain to them when the time comes when Musa asks me. You're free to ask me any question. And even when you suspect that your child is not as you call normal, don't always go into the fact that they are being very naughty, or what's happening, is it spiritistic or anything like that. No, always think about the medical side of it, because learning disabilities, autism, etc., they are more common than we think. They are very, very common in this world. Most people are affected. Why? There's always a debate out there about why it affects people like that. And then I'd like to encourage, I'll start with the younger generation. Oh, there was a time once I was a younger generation. Well, I like to consider myself still as young, but the ones who are younger than me, I just want to encourage you to say that you guys are doing fantastic. You are very encouraging. Whenever I've got a teenage daughter, she's over 16 now. And when I see the advice and the points she comes up with, it's really amazing because she's coming with it from a different perspective. Yeah, that's what I was saying, that from my mom's generation, she came from a different perspective because of the kind of life that she also lived in, because they lived in the kind of life where it was more traditional, you know. So obviously the way they gave us advice was more traditional. And then when we get that traditional advice, we modernize it a little bit. And then when you pass it to our kids, they modernize. So it becomes almost like a generational advice that goes on and on. So keep it up, the younger ones. You're so encouraging to us. Whatever you're doing, just make sure that you first question yourself, this thing that I'm doing, what are the consequences? So always asking yourself, is it going to be a positive outcome or negative outcome? If it's going to be a negative outcome, don't do it. If it's going to be positive, why not? And then to my generation, we are rocking it. Let's keep it up. Let's do it, you know, the way we are doing it. Just the same thing. Life is full of its challenges and struggles. And then obviously to the older generation, just to thank them for everything that they've done for us. Yeah, so I think that's all, Musa, that I can say.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. We'll start from, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we do on the show. You know, we bring in people with different talents, different gifts. You know, Yvonne's gift is, he heals people through her writing. When you read her books, when you read them, when you understand them, and you understand, like the Bluebird has got a lot of rhetorics, but I understood it, and then at the end, I made a perception of what I wanted to be in the end, and
Yes.
I could relate with it with a lot of things like what you've mentioned, different battles. So we'll start with the shift that you gave the younger generation. That's, you know, that's lovely, and this is what I want to push for as well. We need more young people coming on the front line, because you are our future. You know, we're growing older, and you know, you're the next era that's coming behind us. And we do have the young people show as well, so please encourage your kids, young people under 25s, to join that shift, because it's been led by two lovely girls. I'm sure you've listened to it as well, Yvonne.
Oh yes, they are really amazing, and I was amazed and surprised in the amount of information they were just imparting. I really enjoyed them. So please, can you tell them that it was a phenomenal show?
Thank you. They're back. They're back first weekend of March. We also, what I'm trying to do as well at this point is trying to step into the younger generation in Zimbabwe. As you know, we lost another young one today.
Oh, yeah.
And part of that process just I came to the realization that as much as we're healing people here, we need to align and heal people everywhere in the world, you know. And I'm trying to bring in some young people from Zimbabwe as well to be part of the show. So that's going to be quite interesting.
Good. Yeah, that would be very exciting.
Yeah, to see the different dynamics, you know what I mean, of people here, and then we encourage them and put them in that place. So thank you for that message. Thank you for the message that you've also given the elderly generation, not elderly, because we're not yet.
We're just
we're not yet old. It was just
5 past younger.
It was just yesterday. We used to be in high school. Thank you. Yeah, I've got one of my sisters from Ghana who's doing phenomenal things for women called Obapa as well. I'll share details about her as we go on forward. She's also saying she wants the young people from Ghana to be part of the Young People Show. So thank you so much. We want all the young people, you know, wherever you are in the world, please join the shift. Young people, encourage your children, your grandchildren. We need to bring them. We need their energy. We need their inspiration. We need their talents, you know, to push them so that we know we reset humanity. And our generation, I think we're the in-betweeners. I always say we're the in-betweeners.
We are.
We're the in-betweeners because we are in the middle of, you know, the elderly and the young generation, you know what I mean? And I can resonate when you were talking about your teenage daughter and ECT. So I think we have a lot of work to do, because we need to inspire the ones that have gone before us and the ones that are after us. So we need to come together and join the shift as well. So thank you for that message. You know what I mean? And then finally, the elderly generation, we need to respect our elders. You know, we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for the elder generation. I know sometimes we tend to want to overlook the fact that, oh, you know, the older people, what do they know? But I know for a fact as well, like, you know, growing up for me, I always used to have conversations with my grandparents a lot. You know, my grandma, my granddad, we used to talk, and things that I have managed to become through those conversations. And then as we grow older, we don't acknowledge them enough. You know what I mean?
No. That's true, Musa, because if you think about Ngano, that
Yeah.
your gogo and
Mhm.
Sekuru used to tell you, yeah, which means grandpa and grandma.
Yeah, yeah.
They used to tell us about Tsur, rabbit or hare, and baboon.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's always the rabbit or the hare, who always came out as intelligent and clever. So it's about that adage and that kind of lesson. What is it that you gain from that? So it's always like, be clever like the rabbit, or be clever that like the hare. So they always used to tell us these stories, but they make sense.
They make sense. They make a lot of sense. And elderly people also speak in very deep rhetorics, that but then when you clock it, when you understand them, that's it. You're set
Yeah.
for life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank, thank you so much for sharing those positive words. I just want to say to you, you know, personally, for myself, now this is me having a conversation with you right back. You know, I know I'm hosting you and you're meant to talk, but I just wanted to say I'm really, really humbled, because I wasn't even expecting you to share the details or the personal information that you shared with me today. So I'm really, really thankful, because it's a topic that has been there for me at the back of my head, where I was thinking I need to find an opportunity to address, you know, disabilities. You know what I mean? And because there's a lot of stigma around disabilities, you know what I mean? But you are proof. And I want to speak to somebody today as part of us moving into the healing. If you suspect that your child, or if you suspect even yourself, if you suspect, because disability, even, you know, having depression, mental health, I'll talk more about mental health, sure, is a disability in itself. And we have a very different perception of where we think when a person or when a child, we'll focus on child at the moment, because this is the experience, the shared experience we have from you, Yvonne, is when we talk about a child with disability or a child with autism, it's very, very difficult. I know families that even try and hide it from other families, you know, or sometimes parents that force their children to be normal because they don't want the world to see that their child is autistic. Do you know what I mean? Or their child has disabilities. So they still put that child out there and portray them as, you know everything about them is correct. And there's a danger in that, because when these children grow up, they get confused themselves. They start to feel like maybe they're not like normal, or there's something really wrong with them, because they're feeling some type of way which doesn't resonate to everybody else, because they were being brought up in a
Yes.
situation.
Because I think if there was awareness, I like the fact that you said in future you're going to be having this kind of shows, which is really good. If there's awareness of things like autism, yeah, and if there's removal of discriminatory language, like
Yes.
this person is crazy, okay. If the society start thinking that, because it's about knowing exactly what happens when a person has got autism. because the definition is not very, it's not very beautiful. It's like a disorder of self. You understand? That's
Yeah.
the definition.
Yeah.
But when people know that, for example, that we've got different abilities, we've got we are unique in our own way. It's just about the society accepting that. Yeah, it was just one person just a few years ago. The person wasn't really, they're not really close, just an acquaintance, people we just meet. And the moment she heard that my son is on the spectrum, that was it. That was it. They didn't want to. We used to do some play dates. They didn't want to come or anything like that. But later on, they sat down with me and they said, "Is ASD contagious?" Hello, Mutsa.
I'm just highlighting you. I'm just letting you talk. I'm here.
All right. I thought I was
No.
looking by myself. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, so they sat down with me, which I was glad, with a cup of coffee, and they said, "I wanted to know, is autism contagious?" And yeah, I know you say, "Wow, isn't it?" And I just went like, why would you say that? Because I always want to hear people's points. She's like, "Oh yeah, because I don't want my own child to have autism and all that kind of stuff." Yeah. So we spoke about it in detail, and she's now fine about it. But do you see a prime example of what I mean? It's like, for example, when we were growing up, if you saw a person, a Benzi, walking in the street, we call the Benzi, which is very discriminatory actually. When you call somebody crazy, when they've got mental impairment, that's very discriminatory. And whenever I used to see that, isn't we used to say, if I give birth, I don't want to give birth to a child who's like that or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because people used to think it's very spiritistic and all that. That's the root. That's where the problem is. This is where we're talking about generations, Musa. Where we're saying that it's us, the middle generation, or it's the younger ones, or it's the older ones, but there has to be somebody who's got to break that cycle. On social media, when they see somebody and they say, that one, there was a post I saw, I won't mention the group or anything like that. I was just like, wow. They said, "Oh, do you guys have any mad people who live in your area? And how are they? What are their characteristics and traits?" Something along those lines. You are increasing in promoting that stigma. And then in the end, do you think someone who's got a person with autism or somebody who's autistic, because some people discover they're autistic when they're older, do you think they'll actually come out and say, "Listen, I've got a child who's got autism," or "Listen, I've got autism"? They won't, because they don't want to be judged. They don't want people to say, "Oh, these are the crazy people," or something like that. So it starts with just raising awareness, and it starts by helping people to use anti-discriminatory language. So it's just all awareness. Then I'm sure you will hopefully start seeing some parents saying, "Oh, you know what? I've got a child who likes to eat plain food only. They don't eat anything with color. What do you think is wrong?" Or "My child just cries and cries. I can't stop them." Or "My child bangs on the wall. What happens?" Because I see so many posts like that, and I'm thinking, wow. And the replies, some people go like, "Oh, why don't you, let me not go into detail," but they've got their solutions, which I'm thinking, actually, no. If you probably go down this route, you might see, because it's about being open to other things, but most people don't want to open up to the autism route, or this person might have learning disabilities. They don't like that. It's because of the stigma that's there. But can it be broken? Yes, it can.
It can.
It's up to the society.
That's what we do here. That's what we're trying to do, and I'm doing everything I can, to break those boundaries, and I will break those boundaries because we need to shift. This is what the shift is all about: shifting people's mindsets, where we have stereotyped things, or we have stereotyped people, young children. How do you define to say is it contagious? All those things is because people don't understand. And I know your sister, who's very, very big on that. I'm very excited that, you know, hopefully she's coming on the show as soon as. I haven't spoken to her officially, but I know she's coming on the show as soon as, because I've seen a lot of the work that she's doing. You know what I mean? It's we need to do that. We don't want people to suffer in silence. We don't want stigma around. You know, we want to raise awareness, and we want to build a society that's inclusive. We talk about racism, we talk about feminism, we talk about all these things, discrimination. But then the biggest key things on discrimination, we tend to undermine it. We sweep it under the carpet, you know, because, and I think a lot of the times parents as well are just in denial because of the stigma, and they find it really hard to come out and say my child has a problem because of the stigma. We are very defensive, you know, when somebody says, oh, you know, have you noticed this, that, and the other about your child? In the same sense as well, there are people that stereotype people thinking, oh, this person's got autism just because they can't understand how they act. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they on them, and the way autism is defined, like you say, it is very broad, and sometimes it's not.
It's if you see, oh, that's another thing. My son looks in terms as in the terms that you'll say in normal. He looks like just the regular little boy, you know, when you meet him. But it's only when you spend time around him, you go like, oh, okay, you know, something is a little bit amiss. But you mentioned my sister. That's where, you know, when I get the chance, that's where Village Champions comes in, because she's another wonderful and phenomenal woman who's raising a child with a disability. But this disability is one which people will stop and stare. You know, that's a kind. But when you have on a show, you will see what it means to break boundaries, because she's got a page which she educates people where she lives, because she lives in Denmark. And I won't spoil it for you, but
yeah, please.
That's where Village Champions comes in my book. I want to spoil it for you, because she'll kill me.
Yeah. I want to get to know her. I've seen a glimpse of the stuff that she does, and I want to get to know her because I'm really excited for her myself. So thank you so much. So thank you so much. I mean, you know what? I know we kind of like running out of time for you, because I know you have limited time and you've been patient, and we've enjoyed a lot, and I don't want to keep you. But you see how God works in mysterious ways. You were really panicking, thinking, am I going to be able to go through the whole show without? There you go. You know, ladies and gentlemen, this is Yvonne Gwenyambira, who is a phenomenal mom, an inspiration within the community, you know, raising her kids, one with autism, written a book called Autism. I'll let her do the final details, but for myself, I'm looking at, I've always known you to be on a personal level, you know. I've always known you. I didn't know the author side and all of these things that you've been going through. You know, I had no clue. But even still, you've always been positive. I've never known a conversation ever in my life, in the past 20 years of my life of knowing you. I've never had a conversation with you where you are negative. Never. ever. Where you come, never. I've never. And then when I saw the book, I was like, that's my sister right there. You know, I'm so proud. And even now that I know everything else that's going on in the background and all that you're standing for, which I think Village Champions, the book. Do you want to, before you find everything else, do you want to talk about the Village Champions quickly? And then your details.
Yes, the Village Champions is almost like you'd call it a children to adults book, so it's suitable for all. But it's talk about 5 heroes in the book. They are fictitious, obviously, but they're fictitious. Sorry, my brain is now fried. It's not fried. Yeah, authors also go through that. We go blank. But this one is based on my 5 heroes: my daughter, my other son, and my other son, my little niece, and my little nephew, the one who's blind. So you will see some stories in there, which is based on I make them heroes. I use their real names, but then I make them heroes. So it's not based on their lives. So, for example, the one about Junior, because Junior, we call him Juju. The one, my little blind nephew, is so cute. He is a hero in his village. And the one about my son, he is a hero in his village because although he's got autism, he can talk to animals. So he manages to rescue. Yeah. And then my little boy, he's little boy, but he overcomes bullies. So you see all this. So I made them. And then my little niece, I made her into a queen. And then my daughter, I made her into a girl who overcomes a bullying horse, which lives on the farm. So she talks to animals. So they are my little heroes in my life. So I just want, like, you know what, let me write a story based on the aspects or the beautiful factors that I see about them. So that's what the book is called, Village Champions. It's really an interesting read. Yeah.
So where can we find all these books? So your other sister, I'll introduce you to her. I think you guys connect very well as well. I think, yeah, Barbara, I think you will be able to connect with her. So I'll swap details if that's okay. Or I'm going to pick up your details from here. She said you're an amazing, strong woman, you know, and I keep getting a lot of messages. I was going to tell you at the end, but they keep flashing up where everybody's saying you're amazing, a strong, amazing woman. You know, you're more than amazing. You know, you're more than amazing. So the grand finale, all these books, where can we find them?
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, Musa. Sorry, the delayed technology. Sorry, the autism book. Also, go ahead. I'll be quiet. Then I'll see your mouth stop. I'll be quiet.
No, I was just going to say the grand finale, the books, your contact details, and then if there's any support that you want, any organizations you might want us to connect you with, you know, if there's any vision that you have behind, if we can come together to do a collaboration with any of the listeners listening in, just round it up, everything, the shift.
Okay, the shift. Yes. Okay. The autism and the Village Champion, they are found on, you can find them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or if you just Google it, there's in bookshops, which sometimes I won't even have any clue where they are, but they are worldwide. But Bluebird in War is still on Amazon at the moment, but I'll be updating on Bluebird in War page book. So please follow it. It's Bluebird in War. That's where I'll be giving all the updates where the book will be found in future, because there are so many people who've been contacting me saying we can't find our book in some people live in New Zealand, and yes, Amazon, they don't have facilities there, but it's going to be worldwide very soon, so I'll just be updating there. Then if you want to contact me for any details, like for example, if you want to ask anything about the book, or you want to ask about if you want to ask about ordering the book, I would suggest you email my my sister's also, like, she deals with marketing side too. It's Gwenyambira M, which is GwenyambiraM But you can also email me on YvonneBlue2020 Yvonne is YVONNE. So blue2020 And if you've got questions, any questions really, which are life related, or if you just if you want a motivational quote, so sometimes I write little motivational quotes that I put on Amazon, so you can always read up on it. And I'll have an up and running blog very soon, which will be about recipes, how to cook food, and I dabble everywhere, and how to in just daily motivational positive quotes. I'll be putting them on the blog when it's up and running, not now, but very soon. I'll update people on my Facebook page. And also, what else can we talk about? What else can I say, Musa? I think that's all, isn't it?
That's it. If
Yeah.
if there's anything else you want, please feel free. You know, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Thank you so much for inspiring the people, the community, because this is what we stand for. You know, thank you so much. I mean, you haven't if you still need the details and you didn't hear them, there will be a video of the show coming out, and as well as you can message me so that you know, and I can give you the details myself, and or I can share Yvonne's details, whatever is easier. You know, I'm here as well. I'll be the mediator. So thank you so much, Yvonne, and thank you so much for testifying about. Yvonne has known me for 20 odd years, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the few people that has known me from high school, being in a boarding school together. And like she said, when we started the show, I'm still the same person. I'm just a woman now, but this is how I've always been. So I really appreciate that testimony.
Can I just do 1 minute of proper testimony? You know, when you see when you see Musa dancing on Facebook, that's Musa. That's how I've always known her. She's always fun-loving, positive, always like to help people. You know, I like the fact that Musa said, you know, I took you in like my little sister, but if you didn't want to be taken in, it was going to be difficult, isn't it? So you always, yeah, Musa was one person, like if you just say Musa, what you just say is kind, going, she gets along with people. So I'm not even surprised that Musa has got this lovely show with called Shifting Your Mindset. That's always been her. If you're in a conversation, she will shift your mindset. She used to do that. Like you'll be talking about something else. Even if it's people talking about something negative, she'll go like, okay, guys, so what is the way forward then? That was Musa. So I'm not surprised. But as I said, she's just now a woman and a mom, but she's always been the Musa. And keep it up, Musa. I'm really, really proud of you too. You've really done well. Please keep it up. And I know for sure that your show will go big. It will really, because of the mindset that you've got, you know. So keep it up. It will, you will explode. You will.
Thank you, sis. That's amazing. I'm not even gonna say much on that because that I'm meant to be the host. I'm meant to say all these things, but you know, I just thought, you know, it's not every time people that really know me like that on the show, and this is what this is about. This is like real life experiences. I'm part of that real life experiences, you know. As much as I'm a host, I'm a human being, and as much as I'm a human being, I'm also not perfect. I'm not perfect. Everything is there, you know. I aspire to grow. I aspire to be better than what I was. Passion that's there is I like to help people, and I like for all of us to place where we fulfill our purpose. You know, we walk within positivity and light, and we always talk about these things. Like I can't wait to work on the children with disabilities. I mean, I've already pictured a lot of things right now. There's a lot of people that I've pictured you with, and I've pictured a lot of things. A lot of things happening, and this is what the show is all about. You know, this is what I aspire for. You know, we connect you with the right people, because maybe sometimes I might not be able to go all the way, but I've already seen where this is going, and I already know people that have the same mindset as you, and you know, connecting you guys and building up from there. That would be amazing. Thank you so much for being the phenomenal woman that you are.
Thank you, Musa.
You, like, you know, I'm not being anything else. You know what you're doing right now, salute you. You know what I mean? You're breaking the barriers. You've already started the shift. I mean, you're here on the shift, but you've already started the marathon, and we're right behind you. I am right behind you. The shift, people behind the shift are right behind you. We are all right behind you. There's something bigger. We don't want, a lot of people are struggling with this. This is a common aspect that people become positive. That's the end goal for us. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for taking time, because I know it's not easy as well. I really appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
People. I'll catch up with you after the show, but I'm really humbled, you know. I'm sending you so much love and light to you and the kids.
You too, and the kids too.
All right. Okay, Yvonne. I'll speak to you after this.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're right there on the dot, you know, despite the hiccups, you know, like what Yvonne had said, she was having a bit of problems. But this has been the shift. Today, we've touched a whole lot of different aspects, the dimensions, but the highlight is on, you know, people, children, parents living with children with disabilities, you know what I mean? And the support systems that are there. Like what Yvonne has said, let's join the movement. Let's take away the stigma. Let's start to support one another, you know what I mean? And we take away the discrimination and the stigma around these disabilities. Take away guys. I appreciate you being part of the shift. I'll be back tomorrow morning on the gospel show, where, you know, we're going to worship, we pray together. But thank you so much. And I also just wanted to say shout out to my young sisters. It's her birthday in 2 minutes time, Petsy. You know, happy birthday to you, baby girl. You got so much ahead of you. I love you. I love you. I love you so much. So have a fab day. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been amazing. Sending you so much love and light. The video will be out tomorrow. You can also watch the video, you know, and you can have a visual of who Yvonne is, and you might be able to catch up some of the things that you haven't caught up. She's beautiful. She's amazing, as you've heard. Thank you so much. Sending you so much love and light. Mutsa.